listener production.
Hi, Natarsha Belling with you and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, the BOM's massive fail. The Federal Environment Minister and the Queensland Premier are leading the charge, slamming a multi-million-dollar major makeover on the Bureau of Meteorology's website. Meteorologists say the changes make it almost impossible to read vital radar and weather information, with some saying it's not only putting lives at risk with dangerous weather conditions, but a disaster for our primary producers and farmers. So how did the BOM get it so wrong? But first, let's check the afternoon headlines this Wednesday, the 29th of October. The chance of an interest rate cut has plunged after inflation jumped to its highest level in more than a year. New data from the ABS shows prices increased 3.2% over the year to September, well above expectations, driven by increases in housing, transport and electricity costs. The Reserve Bank has forecast inflation to ease towards the middle of its target range, but the sharp increase makes a rate cut at next month's meeting on Tuesday now highly unlikely. A woman accused of sabotaging two Sydney hospitals has appeared in court denying the allegations. 42-year-old Vanessa Moulton is charged with cutting gas and water mains and activating fire hoses at Sutherland Hospital, and also allegedly interfering with a private hospital nearby. She's facing multiple other charges, including tampering with fire alarms and trespassing. Appearing via video link, Moulton told the court in 4 words, "I didn't do it." She will remain in custody until her next hearing in December. Meantime, police are investigating the death of a 72-year-old man who passed away at one of the hospitals just hours after the alleged sabotage. No charges have been laid in connection with that incident. And Donald Trump's granddaughter is set to make her professional golf debut. 18-year-old Kai Trump has been given a special sponsor exemption to play in next month's Annika tournament at Florida's Pelican Golf Club, one of the biggest events on the LPGA Tour. The high school senior, who's committed to play college golf for the University of Miami, told social media it's a dream to compete alongside her heroes.
I'm looking forward to teeing up and competing with the best players in the world at one of the most premier venues on tour.
Kai Trump is currently ranked number 461 in the American Junior Golf Association and already has millions of social media followers. Now it's time to get into our deep dive on the BOM website makeover that has millions across the country fuming. In a more than $4 million makeover funded by taxpayers, the BOM launched its new website last week with complicated and confusing changes. 7 News meteorologist Tony Auden joins us to explain what has gone so horribly wrong, why automation is partly to blame, and why the major changes are incredibly dangerous, even deadly, especially when warning residents about powerful storms and changing weather conditions. Tony, thanks so much for joining us. Now, this massive makeover of the BOM's website officially launched last week. Tell us what's happened.
Well, thank you for having me, Tash. Basically, we've had what we consider a stale Bureau of Meteorology website for the better part of 15 to 20 years now. It's very functional, though. It works differently to apps where you put in your location, you get some basic information. You have all of that raw information, lots and lots of data there. You've got timestamps. You know where it's come from. You can verify it. Now we've been thrust into this new world of a new website where they've basically tried to redesign the front page as an app. You put in your location, you get what it decides is important for you. And it's very hard to find everything else. And there are tens of thousands of pages that people have used over the years. I probably have about 5,000 stuck in my head. I know exactly where to click to get to all of them. And that's been completely ripped to shreds in just one night.
So we understand this makeover cost more than $4 million. Now, am I correct to say that's actually taxpayer money, and you're one of many that say this is a complete disaster?
That's correct. So it's federal government. So that is definitely something that we are paying for through our taxes. Given it's a national system, it's got to be very secure. I'm surprised it probably wasn't a bigger number, but what we're getting for it is a system that, while they claim they were consulting with the public, I don't know anyone that has actually been consulted. We've provided a lot of negative feedback, and it's a system that, apart from thousands of negative comments, I think I've had one positive comment in assorted views of social media and talks with people in the last week. So one way or another, it is not representing what the people need.
So can you explain to us in simplistic terms exactly what's wrong with it?
In short, you can't navigate to find what you want easily. In the past, as I said, we've got tens of thousands of pages of information, everything for your local area, from river heights to forecast to radar, a consistent radar that's had a colour scale that we understand and love. All of those have been hidden behind a front end that is now very hard to navigate and doesn't easily give you the options to get through with minimal clicks. So you could get to most of those tens of thousands of pages within 2 or 3 clicks if you knew where to look. Now, I suspect it'd be 4, 5, 6 clicks. You might have to put it in a search engine, which, again, the search engine's not great, and it's hidden in a clunky place and in different areas as well. So most of that data is still there amongst a few other changes, but it's really, really hard to find.
Now, in regards to what we saw in Queensland last week, this website actually launched the week that Queensland was absolutely devastated in many areas by these incredibly wild weather conditions. How dangerous is the lack of easily accessible information on the BOM website?
Well, in short, it is dangerous. It's not hard to imagine it could actually be deadly. I mean, it's a long bow to draw. But in terms of the severe storms that hit, especially around Brisbane, people were looking at the new radar, seeing orange colouring, not realising that we'd changed the format from the raw reading of the radar, which is essentially decibels, into an estimate of millimetres per hour. They'd essentially lopped the top of the scale off, so there were no blacks, and it was clipped at orange. Now, I don't think it's been officially defined over the years, but it's understood that black means it's a nasty storm, and generally there's large hail. If you see black on the radar, you take cover. They've taken this layer and completely got rid of it. There's no detail on the top of the radar there. So many people on Sunday afternoon saw an orange blob coming towards them, thought this will be a garden variety storm. I won't prepare. And they were hit by a very nasty storm. These are some of my friends were hit by tennis ball sized hail, 100 kilometre an hour winds, and they had power lines over their driveway with young kids around. So that is dangerous and potentially deadly. Now, the radar doesn't get rid of it, but it's designed to help warn people, and it didn't do that job.
And in regards to you, for your professional background, you actually worked at the BOM, Tony, before becoming a very qualified meteorologist. How frustrating is this for you?
Look, it's very frustrating. So while we have many, many websites to draw on information, I look at probably 20 websites each day, raw model data. What I do for my forecast is start with the icons and the temperatures the Bureau give me. Then I look at the latest information and update it, and I can give you information that I've looked at my phone 10 seconds before going to air. But I do still draw on a lot of that information from the Bureau, the raw observations, the river heights, as I said, the background radar data, that's feeding from the Bureau into many other areas as well. So it's important that we have this functioning website, this database, this source of information amongst a whole host of other websites and apps, and even other social media, groups as well. So there's a lot of way to spread the information, but the source of all of that, or almost all of that, is the Bureau of Meteorology.
And in regards to these changes, Tony, you mentioned before it can be potentially very, very dangerous for a lot of people, considering how serious these storms have been over recent days in both Queensland and Victoria. But what about rural people, farmers and primary producers, whose livelihood depends on accurate weather information?
That's right. So one, it's going to be harder to find the information they need. You put your location into the website, it will give you something. So about 15 years ago, when I was at the Bureau, I helped implement a system which changed it from typed forecasts, very specific. So obviously a capital city like Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney gets a lot more information than regional areas. But that was changed into a gridded system and automated text generators as well, to take this gridded data, feed it into weather apps, feed it into all of our systems, and give places in the middle of nowhere, back of Burke, almost the same information as our capital cities. Now, there's a strength in that. It gives us all information, and it's probably better considered than just looking at the raw models, but we lose all of that detail. It's a blend of models. Those severe weather events don't tend to come out. And as that system has been more and more automated over time, what we're doing is we're getting less and less information. So at day 3 or 4, you might have a shower or two on the forecast. And I can tell you that's going to be a ripping storm day, and I'm putting storm icons on my maps on air.
So is automation a big issue here?
Yes, it is. I'm guessing budget pressures and just the desire to provide more information to more people, both of those working together have given us a system that can be started with computers. We can have add-ons from forecasters. And I know a lot of the forecasters, I work there, they're hardworking, they're skilled, they love what they do. But as they get less and less input into this process, it's more automated, we'll lose the detail. And then if you throw onto the top of that a website change where you can't find even that information, it must be very frustrating for many people.
So considering, Tony, also we're paying for it as taxpayers and to better support these hardworking forecasters, what would you like the Bureau to do?
Well, I would like to propose as a starting point, we need at least some kind of access to the old website, whether that's a toggle with the new one being able to flick to old or just reverting back to the old one and reimagining it. It'd be good not to lose all of the work that's been put in. I'm sure there's some decent thought and some good features in there as well, but we need to be able to access the old one. And I've been sharing, there is a version of the old website still accessible as well, which has kept me sane. That's a starting point. In terms of the actual forecasts, to be able to include a little bit more input from the meteorologists into these automated grids would add a lot more detail. Now, all of the warnings should be done manually. All of that detail comes out well, but the forecasts that feed into our apps that go into all of those locations are getting more and more automated. So to be able to preserve some kind of actual human input into that forecast would help a lot.
Weather is so important and we really appreciate you joining us for your expert analysis. Let's hope there's sunny days ahead, Tony.
Thanks for having me, Tash.
That was 7 News meteorologist Tony Auden. And that's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. We'd love you to subscribe or follow us on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast, and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. I'm Natarsha Belling. Thanks for your company.